Basically what we did is we took gameplay of the first 2 worlds of Super Mario Bros, stripped out all the music, rearranged every sound cue and music cue in the entire game for 18-piece big band, 20-piece string section, 4 winds, 2 harps, 2 people on Roland SPDs playing sound effects, and then a 25-piece choir. That's like 65, did I do that math right, piece orchestra?
Alright, I'm sure there'll be somebody in the comments.
Somebody do the math.
Why did you do this?
Because I can I curse in this video?
Yeah, sure.
I love this music. This music is so iconic and so representative of a generation. I just feel like it deserves to be expanded in the most grandiose way possible to like fully realize what its musical potential is. Welcome to the most insane recording session. It's like, I mean, woo! Like any questions, and I know it's a little fiendish, so if anything is like truly ridiculous or impossible to execute, please speak up, we can change it. Really not a big deal. So you hear this wind music, I think 5 or 6 times, so I wanted to start it. It's sort of like a leitmotif that continues through the whole piece, right? It's the wind music. Orchestra, choir, triangle. The full band just playing really strong, proud trumpet fanfare triads. Brass fanfare. And then the strings doing what the strings do best in the opening of an overture is trilling. So that serves as like kind of the overture for this whole thing. This is classic Broadway. Take the main theme from the show, play it like over the dominant, like over 5, and then move up a minor third and another minor third. That's like, I think, Broadway overture move 101. That's that intro fanfare.
In, okay, World 1,
yeah.
World 1-1.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about actually orchestrating the iconic
theme?
The theme, yes.
Right. You know, the thing that I love about Koji Kondo is even given those really limited 4-channel options, 1 being drums, 1 for bass, and 2 essentially to imply all melody and harmony at the same time, even working within those limitations, he was able to imply so much melodic contour and harmonic contour. Okay, so in the original we have limited 3 notes, which, by the way, contains all the harmonic information you need, which is what's so genius about it. Bass line splits apart, you have 2 notes. Guide tone's there, bass tone. The 3rd voice jumps up and then went back down. That's tricky. Compositionally at its core, when everything is stripped away and it's just square waves, 2 square waves, all of the ingredients like were there and are implied, and full harmony. This original theme right here just exists in thirds. Right?
Yeah.
Great. Now let's see that in its most fully expanded version. That's the classic big band solo writing. Whenever I'm writing in a jazz style and I hear that chord change, going from 1 to flat 6.
Yeah.
Like I inevitably always want to put a 7 in it. And also I went
Little reverb, yeah.
Because a little, you know,
little spunk.
Little spunk on there. My impulse about hearing this and thinking what style is this theme in its fullest expansion, this actually isn't my first instinct. I just started with big band swing because this is the first level of this arrangement. Since it sort of is like a clave rhythm anyway, you know, is actually the 2nd time that I use that theme.
The mambo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so right there, to make sure that it fit into the 2-3 clave, I moved it, which felt weird at first. You know, which like I had to hear about 100 times before I got used to it, but it is technically more idiomatic. While I was in Cuba, I went up to a player at his restaurant gig playing a trace, and in my, you know, best Spanish, which is not great, asked him if I could buy a trace. I really wanted a trace. I wanted one from Cuba, and he sold me a trace, and it's sitting right over there. When I heard the original melody and thought, I see what he's going for, It's a more like sort of mambo Afro-Cuban kind of thing. This is the more fully realized representation, I think, of what the intention was of the melody originally.
The next section is kind of like a, what would you call it, mysterious funk?
Where's that f***ing drum set part? Oh yeah, so I wrote dancehall in his part, because I really wanted that like... Contrary to popular belief, the original is actually in 6/8. It goes for 4/5/6, 4/5/6, 4/5/6. When this was ported to Super Nintendo, they squared it off and put it into 4/4.
Yeah.
This always like...
So we got the sus to the...
Yeah, sus to dominant. And so that bass line always struck me as like super sneaky, kind of fusiony, kind of, you know, worldy. You know, and so this is the thing I'm talking about as an arranger and orchestrator, is the more styles you're familiar with the idiosyncrasies of, the more that in your own writing you start to mix them and say like, oh, so it's like funk octaves, dancehall drums, fusiony sus chords, and then like Miles Davis, harmon mute soloing would be great in between those. Miles Davis.
Anytime there's a harmon mute solo, it's Miles Davis, yeah.
That's nobody exactly.
Okay, so on the original, how is it orchestrated?
I think it's just the bass line.
Just the bass line.
Literally just bass line. Let's double check that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so actually, I think he's using 2 channels.
Yeah, there's the upper octave.
Right? Because I'm such a harmony nerd, I can't help but hear that as the sort of like, and a bass player on top of that. You
Right.
know? You know, I like initially, I just like think of that as like that bass line.
It is that bass line.
Yeah,
really
you know.
like...
And also an interesting thing about one of the trials and tribulations of adapting video game music for real instruments is that at this tempo, there aren't a whole lot of things you can double that with in the orchestra. It's tough to do. It's easy on bass, of course, and it's easy for left-hand piano. But then when you get to the like, that's really fucking hard for like almost every instrument. I thought it would be easier than it was, but to jump up and down octaves really quick is not just the simple matter of pressing the octave key, it's a total embouchure shift. But what I did was I took the upper note of the octave and I put it in tenor 2, so the 2 of them like traded off. The first one, the Barry went, the Barry.
Oh.
He like, just to help set it up. But then they stop right here.
That's kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
See, that's why you hire the best cats in town. They figure it out. You don't even notice. And then this chart gets into like full on, like I went for like Tower of Power funk after Mario dies. By the way, I'm playing this gameplay footage.
Right.
Just by the way. So you're probably wondering, some comment is going to be like, why the f didn't he go into World 4? Like, what a noob. Everybody always goes to World 4. That's like a given. The thing is that if you go to World 4, then you skip over the water level that's in World 2, and I really wanted to do that waltz. Planning it out in advance, I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely gonna change keys in the middle, but let's start out with a sort of like 50s, sort of, you know, easy listening orchestral waltz, and so then I really featured like the strings and the woodwinds and you know, but over the big band, like they would have done with the like strings doing the solo writing, which was very typical of that kind of time period. The melody is harmonized in the strings in the same way that you might as a sax soli. This is a really tried and true method of bringing out the top melody of the strings. That top note is doubled in the oboe and an octave lower in the bassoon. Unison, harmonized. Unison, harmonized. You know, I was really going for that like MGM, like Hollywood movie musical gigantic orchestra, and like nothing to me says MGM 40s, 50s movie musical like choir.
Wide vibrato that
the vibrato, yeah,
so good.
It's that classic vibrato.
What was after that? That was...
Now it's like the super up-tempo,
right.
burnin' one. Check this out without any sound on first, because this was my inspiration. Just watching my like adventurous gameplay with all these fish flying around, it was like like whoa, like, you know, there's a couple times in this where I almost die, and I thought like the first thing I heard when I saw this was like, you know, ding 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 ding, really fast swing. So I put in some xylophone and some fast swing, and Sam Dillon playing a burnin' solo, and I got this. in the trombones. Saxes do another typical up-tempo thing, is just play pads that outline the chords, which you can hear again here. So that's just like regular voicings, Barry on the bottom. And then the shout chorus, which goes. Something for the theater nerds out there, there's a part, a violin part that I lifted from the overture from Funny Girl as a deep cut.
Wow, okay.
From the Funny Girl overture, and it sounds like this. That always reminds me of those like videos of like 60s PSAs where it's like, you know, here's Bob on his way to the office. Bob is a normal working American, you know, like that kind of thing.
That's awesome. That sounds so cool.
Isn't that awesome? And so then for this last level, let's get this Bowser theme up here. Super atonal. It's this 6-bar phrase. You could argue that like either part of it is the melody depending on what you're picking out. Like, is that the melody or is this the melody? Also that intonation, whoa. Yeah. And what was cool about this is there's no beat in this one, which meant that like I had to do a sort of halftime metal thing. Like I didn't really have a choice, you know? Again, this was another challenge because that like that thing that upper thing, pretty much the only instrument that could play that is the piano. So that's what it is in the piano. That sort of fast articulation is obviously something that's a lot more conducive to a bow. So what I did is I put the 2 notes also in violin 1 and 2 and had the viola just playing those.
That's kind of cool. So
yeah.
you get the articulation without the...
Right. But I think the nerdy centerpiece of this was I was like, that's atonal. Like, well, obviously I have to put the rite of spring in this. You have, again, I had no option. This is like one of my favorite things to do is just write like whatever notes you want. They all just, it's a classic, you know, film scoring thing. This is, you know, your classic Penderecki vibe. Oh yeah.
Nice.
One of them to play 2 notes at once. So what I did was I actually wrote a tritone because I knew that it would be fingered, you know, this certain way, and then just put bow and squiggle all the way up to an X that was like 6 ledger lines above.
Nice.
Works every time. So because this was so atonal and so open, like, it really gives your arranging brain a chance to like just f***ing run wild. Also, the choir, there's a bunch of men going, oh, you know. Basically, I was like, what? Let me think about the Lord of the Rings score. Like, if this were Mordor, like, what sort of orchestrational elements say Mordor? It's like, oh, the orc choir. Then that gets you to Mario defeating Bowser. When Bowser dies, there's a couple of really crucial sound effects, right? The bridge, and then Bowser falls. Without those sound effects, we really lose so much of the character of the game. Me being the crazy person that I am, decided that every element of this game had to be performed live. This was the longest part of doing this whole process for me, of arranging this and making the mock-up, doing the score. This was the longest part, was I went through the video of my gameplay, frame by frame, and flew in every single sound effect that happened. What that got me was this track right here, basically. Which won't sound impressive to you because it's just the sound effects of the game. Because I wanted them all to be performed live, I put all of those sounds on SPDs. 2 of them, I only have 1 here. And they were live performed by 2 percussionists after transcribing all of those audio files. Just by the way, Jeremy Yaddo did this, transcribed these. Now obviously sound effects don't happen on a grid in a video game, so we used our best judgment to make a balance between accurate time of the sound effects and readability. So what we've done for the pads here is to create a custom notation for them so that when we transcribe the sound effects, they could be recreated live on the pad. The top line of this 3-line staff represents the top row of pads, the middle line of the staff represents the middle row of pads, and then the bottom line represents the bottom row of these pads here. And if you can see, each of these pads has, it's hard to see, but it has a number next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So on the part, the note heads become 1, 2, 3, like they're actual numbers on the lines that represent the rows, and the stems tell them the rhythmic information. of the coin sounds were performed by a glockenspiel player. And all of the flag counting sounds at the end, so like... Missed a couple. At the very, very end, post-gameplay, I used the Mario's Game Over music to end the whole video. Right? That old chestnut. So because I never died in this gameplay video, because I'm pretty good at Mario, I put that in at the end there. Everybody on C unison. I think the big thing about arranging and more specifically orchestrating is understanding what the functions and the various kinds of textures you can make with every instrument are, and how to categorize those by function as opposed to by type of instrument. For example, you could use a really ambient synth in the same way that you would use harp, in the same way that you would use a section of strings, in the same way that you would use a guitar with a lot of reverb. Or you could use a lead synth, trumpet section to make stabbing things, shredding guitar, choir that's singing aggressively. You know, so it's about categorizing types of ensembles doing a specific texture into categories and then knowing what genres those fit into so you can select the right colors.
Every shade of instrument and every shade of orchestration has a function to play within its genre.
Right.
And your job is to be sensitive to what that function is in each genre.
Right, and they cross over in genres. You know, they cross over a lot. And they can be changed and morphed to fit into other things, which is why there's so many like EDM saxophone players.
That is a big thing.
That's the thing. Yeah.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah. The way they attack, and they'll sometimes use pedals, is like really, you know, they can be really aggressive and they take that sort of like pop sax stuff and they take it to the next level and then suddenly they're EDM sax players. Or they're EDM violin players and they play through effects and that makes it fit into that texture more. Or, you know, there's a of contemporary operas that use shredding metal guitar now, you know?
Yeah.
Something that a lot of people don't know is, so these 5 buttons are there's 5 notes of the ocarina, but what a lot of people don't know is it's actually a fully chromatic MIDI controller. This pitch bit, this is down a whole step, up a whole step, half step, vibrato is left and right on the stick. So you can get 2.5 octaves fully chromatic on the N64 controller.
Is that native?
Native.
Native, they have MIDI
in the cartridge. Yeah, you can play, you can have Link play any song with 2 octaves fully chromatic. So I wonder like what's the video series of like me getting way too good at the N64 controller.